Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Fate of Norns video. We have returned with our Viking Top 5, and today we are going to bring back Viking Top 5 video games. Yes, we have made this video previously, but it was 3 years ago. That will have shocked you because there is a few changes into our new list. I am Ken, I am your host for today, and I am joined by the wonderful Andrew Valkauskas. He's going to be our specialist, considering he has been streaming almost every single week. Almost every single week. I mean, he's been streaming every single Thursday, right? Every single Thursday, he's been playing a Viking game. We're going to talk about the game he was playing because it is going to be on his list. However, we've been looking up into what other games he can play that is Viking themed, since we are a Viking company. Pendelhaven is indeed a Viking company. I keep saying
Viking Entertainment, baby.
Viking today. I keep saying like Fate of Norns video, but we should be saying Pendelhaven.
Pendelhaven. It is a Pendelhaven video. Richard would be so upset.
Yeah, exactly. So, there is a lot of games that have been released since 2019, which is when we released our last video. I feel like there's so many of them that could have made the list, and I feel like our list is going to be a lot different. So, Andrew, let's start it off today with our number 5. It is going to be none other than Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
It was so good. Oh my god. So at the end of 3 years ago, it was on my to play list, right? So we finished our top 5, and I was like, everyone's asking me had I played Senua's Sacrifice, and I kept saying no, and they're like, you have to play it. You have to play it. Okay, I'll play it. And I went into this with high expectations because everyone was saying you have to play it. And I was blown away. It was such a good game. And it's not my style of game. If you strip away, the Viking story and the Viking themes and everything, and replaced it, I don't know, with like Blade Runner or something, that style of game of adventure and running through an environment, not my kind of like style of video game. But the delivery of the story and the immersion into the world that they created and well researched, and I was hooked from the first 45 seconds of the game.
I remember 3 years ago when we did our list, and at the end we did like an honorable mention, and this was one of the games on that list. And the fact that you tried it out and you put it into your number 5 just means this game is such a good game. I do love the style. It looks fantastic. And obviously, like you mentioned, the storyline was so good. This game is definitely a recommended game. It is absolutely fun, and you'd have to try it out. So our next one, number 4, is going to be Nilfheim. Mr. Andrew, Nilfheim. Doesn't that sound like something very similar to, I don't know, a Viking game? Tell us more about Nilfheim.
So Nilfheim is a game that we researched very recently. I would say maybe 4 weeks ago, because the game that we shall not mention yet, that we've been streaming every Thursday for the last 8 months. So if those of you on Twitch obviously know what game I'm talking about, but we kind of hit the end of that one and we started going, well, what's our next Viking game that we're going to play? And we went out and started researching a bunch of multiplayer Viking games, and Nilfheim basically was right near the top because we looked at everything that was in terms of gameplay. It's kind of like a Terraria world builder side scroller, so it's like a 2D where you're going along in a world. You're building. You're trying to find ore and beating monsters, picking stuff up, chopping trees, building out your base, going into dungeons, finding treasures. It's one of those games that you can go just literally and proverbially down the rabbit hole. And the art's very stylized, very like visually appealing. And it's definitely a game that is going to be on our to play list. We haven't started streaming it yet, but we've done enough of like downloading it and trying it out that it's appealed to enough of my friends that going to definitely probably hit our stream sometime in the next year.
I think it's funny because I think it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we were passing by in PAX. I think it was East, and we saw this banner, and it's like, oh, Nilfheim. We're like, what is this? Just they're just using the name, just trying to track the Viking users, and then here we are 2 years later looking at this game like it seems pretty good as like a funny. It's a very fun game. I've seen a lot of gameplay of it. I'm excited for you to try and see how it is because it's definitely deserving of the number 4 spots. Now, number 3 spot is actually a returning game, the Banner Saga. If you haven't tried this game out, we talked about this in the first time we did this. It is an absolutely great game, but Andrew, tell us more about it.
Okay, so Banner Saga is a very, very story-driven game where you fall in love with the characters. They follow a linear but very engaging storyline. You get meaningful choices that are very, very difficult. So I guess it's not linear. There are some branching choices that impact your clan, and you are basically on the run. And when combat breaks out, it's very like tactics based. So it's like an isometric view, where you got your Vikings, you got your enemies, you got movement points and attack points, and so it satisfies the tactical crunch of like a role player or a tactics gamer, and it's a trilogy. So I haven't finished it yet. So I'm still playing this game, and so this is why it's still in my consciousness, and I'm like, yeah, this is still a freaking amazing game. I got to get through the whole trilogy, and so it is my number 3. Easy, and I think this is going to stand the test of time. This is one of those games that the developers did such a good job that there will be people like picking this up on GOG, as GOG is good old games, where you can get these vintage old retro games that are really like worth their weight in gold or salt or blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about this is that this specific game, in comparison to the other games in our top 5, it's so different. The style is unique. It's not one of those games where you're like running, hitting people, you can control. It's very much a tactical, as you said, tactile. It's very much strategy as well. So it's a very fun game. And like I mentioned, it was here before. It's a fun game. I generally enjoyed the storyline as well. And it was definitely deserving of to be number 3 spot. I believe it did go down a spot because if I remember correctly in our previous one, it was in 2nd place. Correct me if I'm wrong, if not in the save. So these next 2 is going to be very interesting. And this next one, I've heard a lot of hype about. We haven't really got the chance to play, but number 2 is going to be Tribe of Midgard. This game right here is, I heard, fantastic because you can play a lot of people together, right? If I'm correct, it is a multiplayer, and it's a lot of very fun, like teamwork, more or less kind of stuff. But Andrew, you can tell us more about it.
This is basically what the game we're streaming on Thursday nights now. This is our new game. So after doing a ton of research, this is the game we settled on. And I can tell you that I am not a rogue style game enthusiast. Again, it's not one of those games that I enjoy. But this game, after playing it like the first time, I'm like, okay, huh. Second time, I'm like, oh, interesting. Third time, I'm like, this is really cool. Fourth time, I'm like, I am completely hooked because it's a rogue game. You're replaying your settlement building, defend the tree. There's day-night cycles where in the day you're trying to explore the world around you, and you're learning to be a lot more efficient in terms of what you're looking for and what you're building towards. And then at night you need to defend your base and make sure that Yggdrasil, like the tree at the center, is not destroyed. And every so often there is a god, like a Jotun or Hel or Angrboda, that comes wandering through the world. It kind of alerts you, and it's walking towards your base. And you need to go find her and destroy it before it gets to your base, because if it gets to your base, it's got like 100,000 hit points. It takes forever to kill it. So you have to start early. And there's a whole tech tree involved, and so I'm just scratching the surface of running this a couple of times. And so this is one of those that I didn't think I would like, and I fell in love with it. So, number 2, man. Easy. You spend it on Thursdays.
I personally love these style of games. It's very similar to like an MMORPG. I would consider an MMORPG where you're going around, you're leveling up, you're killing stuff, but in the same sense, you're also gathering resources with these bosses that are currently trying to attack and destroy a settlement, which makes it a very fun, interesting concept, especially since you can play with friends and you have to work together. Have that person scouting, be like, oh, there's a big monster coming soon. We got to try to finish it off before it gets to our base. So it's definitely a fun game. However,
And you hit
we're
it
gonna
with
talk.
multiplayer. Multiplayer is where
Mhm.
it really, really shines. Like I don't think I'd have nearly as much fun playing it single player, but multiplayer, the fact that you've got all these little tasks that you can do, like oh, defend here, I'll defend here. Oh, I've got these resources. I'm gonna upgrade the blacksmith. You can go upgrade the gates or the archer's tower with your resources. There's so much communication that the everyone that's playing is engaged. There's no one that's like off, like oh, okay, I'm bored. I'm sitting off on the side, just chopping wood while everyone else is doing fun stuff. It's everyone's always communicating in terms of what are we going to do next, who's going to do what.
Yeah, it's absolutely a great game to play, especially with friends. Now, to no shock to anybody, our number one game is going to be a very, I want to say very similar in quotation mark. It is going to be one of those you go around, you kill stuff, you gather resources. However, it's a
Survival.
pretty big world. It is indeed a survival game. And our number one is going to be none other than Valheim. No shock to anybody. Valheim is probably the most popular Viking game so far. I want to say up to date of all time. Valheim is one of the most popular that we've seen played and actively still being played. But Andrew, tell us more about Valheim.
So we started streaming Valheim right after GaryCon last year. So we've been streaming for the better part of a year, 10 months. Every week, every Thursday, we all get together, and I didn't even like look at any wikis, no tutorials on YouTube. Basically, I stumbled through, like, go see back episodes. We stumbled through the world trying to figure out how this thing works, and it's a crazy brutal survival game. You die, all your loot drops wherever your body was, and they're sailing, and then you go and sail to other continents, and there's sea monsters, and there's boss monsters you need to go find. And once you defeat a boss monster, there's a really cool, like, unique power that you can attune yourself to, but you can only have one of those at a given time. So after you beat several boss monsters, you're like, okay, I'm going to take this boss monster's power. You're going to take this one, and like you coordinate with everyone else playing with you. And it's a persistent world. So we've built, like, oh, we go back. This is our first base where we had this little ramshackle hut, and this is our second base where we died so many times, and then you go to a third base and you're like, this is where we first started building a city, and all our crafting stations. And then, oh, here's our fourth base that we started building on the cliff side until a boss came and just leveled the entire base. So there's a whole story behind the entire world that you craft together. And so what ended up happening was this game is still in what they call pre-release, which is kind of laughable because it's pretty much like there's a shit ton of content in this game. So we basically completed all of the content. We love the game, so we're not stopping the gameplay, but we basically said, okay, we're going to wait until the next patch drops, and then we're going to play Tribes of Midgard until then. And yeah, that's our world is still going to be there. So Valheim has been entertaining us and our viewers on Thursday nights for 10 months. Super game.
Yeah. I love Valheim, survival game. I think Viking game, the best type is a survival game. What did Vikings do? Survive. And I would call this Viking Minecraft in quotation marks, just
Mm-hmm.
because chopping trees, building boats, fighting bosses, winning the game. But there's going to be way more content coming out, so that is definitely the number one. That being said, our number five is only number five. We do have a lot of video games that we did not put into our top five. We're going to talk about a few honorable mentions. I would like to start it off by talking about one that we mentioned previously in God of War. Yes, God of War does have a Viking version of it, of which is not 200% realistic, but just like any other God of War games, it is very, very fun to play. And the fact that you do see some of these characters, especially since they are releasing a God of War, the second version of this, I don't remember the exact name of it, but the God of War, the Norse mythology one, they're doing a second one coming up soon. So that's a fun one.
The other one that is on our honorable mentions is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I
That's brand new as
really,
well.
really don't
That's brand new.
like Assassin's Creed. Like I've tried to play them in the past. I'm not a huge Ubisoft fan of their games, but we had Jackson Crawford on one of our Fireside chats as a guest, and he was a consultant on this game, and so it's actually given me pause. And now at this point, I might actually say, you know what, even though it's not my style of game, I think I'm going to go and probably pick up a copy and see what fine gentlemen at Ubisoft did with Jackson with this game, because Yeah, it's still on my radar. That's why it's an honorable mention for.
I'm actually curious to see how they kind of link it up to for people who don't know, Assassin's Creed is very much the main character going back to his lineage of assassins, and I'm curious to see how they do their take on assassins in Viking mythology. That should be interesting because we are, and I think in most people's head, Vikings are not the one to be sneaky. They're very much the get into your face and try to smash people's faces. So I'm very curious. I believe this is fairly new. This Valhalla one. I don't know if it's out yet. It's either it's not out yet, but it's fairly new because I know that we're getting into that phase of all companies trying to get into these Norse and Viking mythology kind of stuff. I think you had quite a few other ones honorable mention. Those are really the two that I like to talk about.
Yeah,
But you had
there's
one written
another
down.
one. Yeah, it was Expeditions of Viking. So this is a game that I don't own. I've watched the Steam trailer video for it. I've watched YouTube reviews of the game, and it just seems like something so in my wheelhouse. This is the kind of game that I would absolutely adore. So it's like got this huge overworld. You've got all these choices in terms of where you're going to go as a family, like your Viking family, where you're going to go raid, and then you go land. And when you go land there, it becomes like a StarCraft thing almost, where you're going to go and create your settlement, and then you're going to go and explore from that settlement. But in that settlement, all of a sudden now you've got these people that you can customize as your clan members, and they all have personalities. And then there's, again, like Banner Saga, like there are decisions that need to be made within the clan, and they're not easy decisions. Some of them might cause, a rift. And so without playing it, just the marketing materials have me completely like drooling and really anticipating trying this game out.
So you got clickbaited, is what you're saying.
Totally.
All right, so for our last game, and we're going to talk about this last game because there's a game that was our number one in our last list. It was Crusader King. Did not make our list because we thought that these other 5 were better. However, there's a game that Andrew would like to play, and it's Crusaders King 2. And
I didn't get it
Andrew,
yet.
You didn't get it yet.
No, I didn't get it yet.
But why do you want to play this one? Why you think the second one's gonna be better than the first one?
I absolutely adored the first one. And it's one of those games. The reason it didn't make my top 5 is I've been so busy. So with the pandemic at Pendlehaven Labs, we've been so busy delivering projects, and it's just project after project after project. I haven't had time to play video games. And so Crusader Kings is one of those games like Stellaris and of that vein where you sit down and you will play for like 8 hours on your PC, like one go. It's a very long game, and you might not even be finished at that. And so I didn't have time to play any more Crusader Kings 1, and because I was tight for time, I never could justify buying Crusader Kings 2 because, might as well wait. When I have time, it'll probably be like $2 on Steam on a Christmas sale.
Steam sales!
Yeah, exactly. But it's on my radar. So probably when we do the next top 5 in 3 years from now, good bet, this is going to be my number one.
All right, so that was our top 5. If you want to see our last top 5, we will link a video either in the info card or in the description down below. Compare it. You will be very shocked of how different these are. And if you guys would like to see any other top 5s, maybe board games, we did do that before, let us know in the comments down below. We would be definitely down to check that out. But that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you guys next time.
Skål!